So, good evening, everybody. Today's session is on risk management. It will be presented to you by Mr. Rajiv Kumar Gupta on behalf of Aryan Engineering. So, let us introduce Mr. Rajiv Kumar Gupta to you. Mr. Rajiv Kumar Gupta is a mechanical engineer working in Abu Dhabi, UAE. He is DE in mechanical engineering, having experience with various industries like owner companies. He has a good working experience of design and detail engineering of offshore and onshore piping. More than 20 years of working experience in project management. Actively pursuing potential opportunities in the project management fields. So now I hand over the session to Mr. Gupta. Welcome to you all.
Yeah, good evening. Now let's start. Session. Our session is risk management. Now the outlines of our session. Basic principles. A simple frameworks with examples to understand the risk management and risk management process. Now we will see what is the risk. A risk is anything that may affect the achievement of an organization's objectives or a project. It is uncertainty that surrounds future events and outcomes. It is the expression of the likelihood and impact of an event with the potential to influence the achievement of an organization's objective or a project. Now, before start or discuss about the risk, we will see what is the threat and what is the opportunity. Because when we talk about the risk, there is a threat or an opportunity. So threat, a risk that may hinder the achievement of objectives. You can see from the diagram, we can understand that this is a threat. So that is a risk that may hinder the achievement of the objectives. Now, when we talk about the risk management, always risk is a threat and opportunity. So sometimes the people are saying it's a negative risk, and sometimes it's a positive risk, that is opportunities. A risk that may help in the achievement of objectives, that is positive risk. I think Purva, everyone can listen my voice, because I think maybe if, okay, thank you. Now the question is, why do we need the risk management? That is written by the James Lamb. he stated that the only alternative to the risk management is the crisis management. And the crisis management is much more expensive, time consuming, and embarrassing. Sheila Fraser stated that without good risk management practices, government cannot manage its resources effectively, or a project team or a organization cannot manage its resources effectively. Risk management means more than preparing for the worst. It also means taking advantage of opportunity to improve services or a lower cost. Now, to understand what is the risk management. Risk management is the name given to a logical and systematic method of identifying, analyzing, treating and monitoring the risk involved in any activity or process. Risk management is a methodology that helps managers make best use of their available resources. Now, as a general, what are the steps of the risk management process? Establish objective, identify risk and control, assess risk and control, evaluate and take action, and then it's a monitor and report. We will also discuss during this session the risk management as per the PMI book. Now, based on the previous, what are the steps? Here, as a journal, we can calculate what is the risk management and how we will calculate the risk. So, our cyclist, our friend, is a risk manager, and so the project is for the cyclist. What are the risks? So here in this case, to identify risks that the cyclist faces in the cycling to work, I'll give you the 2 minutes to identify the risk, and then we will discuss what are the risks for our friend, this cyclist. So this is the workshop activity. I'll give you 1 and 2 minutes, then please identify the risk, and then we will discuss in detail. Now I'll give you some ideas to identify the risk. So there are some risk factors you can identify from the pictures. Yeah, he has a risk of falling down, road is too steep, obstruction on the road. Yeah, thank you friends. These are the very good idea to identify the risk. I'll give you some more photos to understand, to create your ideas. The weather, you can see some more pictures. is a cyclist, does not know cycling. Yeah, it's a very good risk. Sometimes it happened. Now you can see some more pictures, how the people will do the cycling. Now we will talk about our risk. Whatever our friends created some, decided the risk, what are the risks, what are the threats. So we saw there is a lot of risks that is identified through the pictures, and so based on this risk, what are the threats? It may be that it's a death, it might be the head injury, might be the injury, it might be the reputation, like when you do the cycling, maybe your clothes might be damaged, so it's a reputation. Maybe your cycle might be stolen, so it's a financial. Maybe when you do the cycling, so maybe your bike might be damaged, so the damage of the bike or cycle. And again, it's because when you do cycling during the sun time, daytime, so maybe the sunburn or a frostbite. So it depends because of the weather. But at the same time, because here we are discussing about the risk, and we already said that here is a threat and the opportunities. So when we talk about any risk, always there is some negative and some positives. So now we discuss about the threats. Now there is a opportunities. There is a opportunity is the exercise. There is opportunity is to get the sunlight. The opportunity is the reputation. The reputation, because you as a model for the others, and is also there is a financial, because you are saving the petrol. So again it's a role model, and also environment. So you are helping to save our environment. So based on that, so here we are discuss about the threat and the opportunities. When most of the time when we talk about the risks, the people think that it's always negative, but always we can count negative and positive. Now when we talk about the risk, there is a negative and positive. So in the threat, for the threats we are doing the mitigation for our threats. So what are our mitigation strategy for the threat? And for the opportunity, we are trying to enhance the opportunity. So that is the next our process. So for the mitigation strategy for the threats, that is death, head injury and other injuries, so we can use the helmet, we can use the bright clothes, lights belt, obeying traffic law, positive attitude and anger management course. If you see our some of the photos, you can see this photo here. If you can use the obey the law. So the same we discuss here in the during the mitigation strategy for the threat, that is the obeying traffic law or law and orders, lights, bright colors, anger management, attitudes. Next is the reputation. So for the reputation, it's a great outfits, change of wrinkle-free clothes, shower. That all this is a time management. Next is the financial, because there is a financial means there is a loss of the stolen of the your bike. So maybe you can use high quality locks, better stopping at stop signs, because if you not obey the traffic law, you have to give the fines. So then stopping at stop signs. So these are the under the financial mitigation. Damage to the bike. So damage to the bike, what are our mitigations? That is the regular maintenance, avoiding potholes, sunburns, frostbite. So you can use the sunscreen, mitten, hats, token, chains. So these are the mitigation for the sunburn. Next is the dehydration. So this is a filled water bottle. So this is just a general example I took, and most of the time we are using this. So maybe long back someone did some identify the risk, and then they did some mitigations, and people are using this helmet, bright clothes, filled water bottle, sunscreens. So just I took the one simple example that in the what we are using in day-to-day activities. Now again, we will this. Why do we manage risk? Project problems can be reduced as much as 90% by using risk analysis. This is I took this data from some of my projects and some information from the newspaper and the internet. I hope you also think the same manner. We can reduce the problems 90% by using risk analysis. How many people think this figure is correct based on your experience? It's a 90% is correct, or it may be 70% or 10% or 5%. Please write on the right hand side, give some of your figure. This 90% is correct, or maybe it's a 70%. How much you are thinking that based on the manage the risk, we can reduce the project problems by using our risk analysis. Friends, write something. What do you think? Yeah. Okay. So 90%. Yeah. Thank you. So I think we are going on the right track. So again, is a positives more positive risk is more information available during planning, improve probability of the success, optimum project. Again, the negative, believe that all risks are accounted and project cut due to the risk levels. Now we will discuss some of about the key term. Now we will, in the next of the slides, we will discuss about the risk management process. So before that, we will discuss about some key terms. That is the risk tolerance, the amount of acceptable risk. You can see that from our graph there is a probability and there is an impact, and this graph shows that this is a risk tolerance. So that means below that is the accepted risk, and above this, that means do not accept this risk. And organization to organization, what is your risk tolerance? It depends on the stakeholders, what is your risk tolerance? It depends project to project, what is your risk tolerance? I hope so. Every company have their own standards and have own risk tolerance. And even sometimes it depends on the project to project. In the same company, there is a different risk tolerance. So the risk tolerance, the amount of acceptable risk. Now this is a very good term, risk adverse. And that means someone that does not want to take risk. And I hope so. If you talk about to any stakeholders or any management, they always says we doesn't want to take any risk. But that is not true. But if the key terms, if we are talking about that is a risk adverse. That means someone that does not want to take risk. I hope so. Everyone is agree on this point that most of the management says we don't want to take any risk. Now the next term is the risk factor. Here there is a probability of the occurrence, then range of possible outcomes, that is we can say impact or amount at stake. Next is the expected timing of the event, because what is the event? Event is when the risk will come, or when we will face, there is a chances of the risk. So that is the expected timing of the event. So maybe some risk, it may come anytime, some risk may be come at the beginning of the project, some may be mid of the project, some may be end of the project. So that is the expected timing of the events. And another is the anticipated frequency of the risk from that source. So sometimes, one risk, we identify some risk, and some of the risk is only, it may comes once in a project. Some are repeated. So that is again, these are the risk factors. So anticipated frequency of the risk event from that source. Now I took this from the risk management PM book. In the PM book, they identify 6 processes. These processes are the plan risk management, identify risk, perform qualitative risk analysis, perform quantitative risk analysis, plan risk response, monitor and control risk. So as per the PM book, these are the 6 processes I took from the PM book, edition 5th. These are the plan risk management, identify risk, perform qualitative risk analysis, perform quantitative risk analysis, plan risk response, monitor and control risk. I try to complete this all 6 process during today's session. I know that we have a time constraint. It's difficult to elaborate all the process in this 60 minutes our schedule, but I take the key points of each process. Now the plan risk management. Plan risk management, the process of defining how to conduct risk management activity for a project. Here, these are the inputs. I hope so everyone is remembered this: project management plan, project charter, stakeholder register, enterprise environmental factor, organization process assets, and these are the tools. We are using analytical techniques, expert judgment and meetings, and our output is the risk management plan. What is in the risk management plan? That is the methodology, approach, tools and data, roles and responsibility, budgeting, resources to be put into the risk management, timing, when and how often, risk category, risk breakdown structure, definition, risk probability and impact metrics, stakeholder tolerance, reporting formats and tracking. So that is under the plan risk management. So based on that we will get risk management plan. Now you can see this risk breakdown structures, RBS, that is the list category and subcategory where risk may arise. If you can see, there is a project and it's a technical, some organization and project management or maybe so on. This hierarchical organized depiction of the identified project risk arrangement by category. Risk breakdown structure is a tool that helps identify the risk for a project. It is a checklist that a project manager or project team can go over to ensure they reviewed all possible sources of risk and identify the risk arising out of those. So here you can see that there is a project and there is a technical. So again in the technicals, limited design time, specification, adherence and organizations, so funding, prioritization, resources, availabilities. So maybe you can easily identify what are the risks based on this. So it may be is a checklist or maybe it's a hierarchical. So but we can arrange in a categories like a hierarchical organized depictions. So this is the risk breakdown structure. Now we will go to the next process, that is the identify risk. We already took one example to identify the risk. Here these are the, again it's the input, that is the risk management plan, cost management plans, dual management plan, quality management plan, human resources management plans, scope baseline, activity cost estimate, activity duration estimate, stakeholder register, project document, procurement document, enterprise environmental factor, organization process assets, and these are our tools where that is documentation review, information gathering techniques, checklist analysis, assumption analysis, diagramming techniques, SWOT analysis and expert judgment. And our output is the risk register. The process of determining which risks that may affect the project and documenting their characteristics. So in this risk identification we are using brainstorming, Delphi techniques, successively anonymous questions on the project risk with response summarized for further analysis, interview, root cause identification, strength, weakness, opportunity and threat analysis. And finally we will get from that risk register. In this risk register, what are these? That is a list of identified risks and the potential responses, root cause, and if required. When you have a serious problem, it is important. Okay. Yeah, Apurva, we are taking some more examples because we have some time constraints. So I'll take more examples. First, we clear this one, and I hope so you will get some more examples in next of the slides. Here we are talking about the cause and effect diagram. When you have a serious problem, it is important to explore all of the things that could cause it before you start to think about a solution. Cause and effect analysis give you useful way of doing this. Cause and effect analysis was devised by Professor Koru Ishikawa, a pioneer of quality management in the 1960s. The technique was then published in his 1990 book, Introduction to the Quality Control. The diagram that you create with are known as Ishikawa diagram or a fishbone diagram, because a completed diagram can look like the skeleton of the fish. So you can see this, if this diagrams, this is Ishikawa or a fishbone diagrams, and it looks that it's like a skeleton of the fish. Professor Ishikawa created cause and effect analysis in the 1960s. The technique used a diagram-based approach for thinking through all the possible cause of problem. This helps you to carry out a through analysis of the situation. There are 4 steps to using the tools. Identify the problems, work out the major factors involved, identify possible causes, and analyze your diagram. And you will find the method is particularly useful when you are trying to solve complicated problem. So here you can see there is the effects, that is the product delivered late, and what are the potential causes. It may be the testing, maybe there are some causes in the testings, some inadequate time, project prioritization, personals, materials, insufficient resources, and there may be the bad specifications. So these are the potential causes, and the effect is the product delivered late. And based on that, you will find that this method is particularly useful when you are trying to solve complicated problems. Now here is the perform qualitative risk analysis. Perform qualitative risk analysis, the process of prioritizing risk for further analysis or action by assessing and combining that their probability of occurrence and impact. You might remember that one of the latter part of the risk management is to determine when you are going to do about risk. Would you want to do something about all the risk identified? Of course not. That's why I said it's very easy to say risk adverse. That means I don't want to take risk, but there is always some risk in the project or in the organizations. So would you want to do something about all risk identified? Of course not. That would be too expensive, or that we would not have enough time, because either it should be expensive or it will take a longer time to avoid the risk, or maybe it's not possible. Therefore, quantitative risk analysis involves creating short list of the previous identified risk. The shortlisted risk will then be further analyzed in the perform of quantitative risk analysis process, or will move into the plan risk response process that we will go on the next slides. But please remember that qualitative risk analysis is the subjective analysis of the risk identified. To perform the analysis, the following are the quantiles, that is the probability of each risk occurring using a standard scale such as low, medium or high, and sometimes it says 1 to 10, the impact of each risk occurring using a standard scale such as low, medium, high, or some companies or some projects they are using 1 to 10. Project document that may be updated include but not limited to the risk registers updates. It includes risk ranking for the project compared to the other project, risk of prioritized risk and their probability and impact rate, risk grouped by categories, list of the risk requiring additional analysis in the near term, and there is another is the watch list on non-critical, non-top risk. That we already said that some of the risks we are not making some plan, and some but that is we can put in the watch list or a non-critical or non-top risk. These risks are documented for the later review during the risk monitoring and controlling. So again, if you go to the perform qualitative risk, again there are some inputs, that is the risk management plan, scope baseline, risk register enterprise, environmental factor, organization processes, and these are the tools: risk probability and impact assessment, probability and impact matrix, risk data quality assessment, risk categorization, risk urgency assessment, expert judgments, and what are these project documents update. Now it's this is the impact probability chart that is based on the principle that risk has two primary dimensions. One is the probability. That means a risk is an event that may occur. The probability of it occurring can range anywhere from just above 0% to just below 100%. It can be exactly 100% because then it would be a friendly, not a risk, and that's why it can be exactly 0% or it would not be risk. So that means the probability is always more than 0% and less than 100%. So that is the probability. Now the next term is the impact. A risk by its every nature always has a negative impact. However, the size of the impact varies in terms of cost and impact on the health, human life, and some other critical factor. Chart allows you to real potential risk on these two dimensions. The probability that a risk will occur is represented on one axis of the chart. So there is a probability and these are the impacts. So in the red color, that is the high risk, and then medium and low risk. And I said there is a risk threshold it varies from company to company. In my organization where I am working, this red color high risk is not acceptable. So our threshold is like this. So in all cases, when you prepare this probability impact or impact probability chart, if some of the risk is in higher sides, we can mitigate this high risk to the medium or maybe the low. Most of the time we are trying to do is into the low, or if it's not possible in the low, then we will convert into the medium. because this whatever in high risk, that is not acceptable by my organization. So this is one by one, and sometimes they are using low, medium, high, and here also we are using like a probability is improbable, remote, auction, and probable and frequent, and the severity is the negligible, marginal, critical, severe, and catastrophic. So how you will do, we will see in the next of the slide. Now you can see how we will, Apurva, you asked me how we will identify the risk. So, there is a RBS, this is a hierarchy where we have the technical or organizational. So these are and again it's a subdivided into our hierarchy to identify the risk. I took one example like a vehicle equipment movements. So what are the consequences? What are the risks? That is the personal injuries, property damage, and same because we are working in the oil and gas sector. So ergonomic hazards, that is a personal injuries, and when you are using the rigging or the crane operation, that is what are the risks? That is the personal injuries, personal property damage. Falling object due to the improper loading or offloading, that is the personal injuries and properties and damage. So based on that, here we can identify there is a team, and some people ask this activity is a risk assessment, some there is a job and safety analysis. So in different organizations there is sometimes different names are there. So here we are say what are the probability or what are the impacts. So what are the based on this risk managers. So if we can go again in the previous slide, there is what are the probabilities. So based on the identify the risk, the people, the group of the team, they can identify whether it's a negligible, whether it's a critical, whether it's a occasional, whether it's a remote, whether it's a improbable, or it's a frequent. So and based on what are our current controls, like our when vehicle equipment movement, and we are saying personal injuries, property damage, we have already taken some current controls, that is PTW, appropriate PP, access, egress, free form obstructions. So these are, we have written, these are what are the current controls. Even based on that, now we are mitigate, because even if it's a medium risk, we are trying to reduce this risk into the low risk category. So again, what are our recommended controls? That is the close supervisions, effective communication between the vehicles and equipment movement. During the equipment movements, there is a effective communications. So based on that, if you can see the severity, it goes from 3 to 1. If you see the probability B to A, so let's go again in the previous slide, where that 3 and our it's a B. Now we come into the low 1 and A. So so based on the recommended control, that we can reduce from medium to the low risk. So these type of tables are using, and this is in our organization, maybe in your organization, maybe it is different. So based on that, so I'll just take one example that how it will behave. So we are hazardous, we can write down the consequences. What are the consequences? Like a falling object due to the improper loading and offloadings. And this is, I think, most of the projects we are considering this falling object. And then these are the personal injuries or property damage, and what are our current controls, and what is the in the current scenario, what are the probability and severity, and then what is the recommended control. And based on that, we can reduce from high to medium, or high to low, or medium to low. Now we will go to the perform quantitative risk analysis. Perform quantitative risk analysis, the process of numerical analyzing the effect of identify risk on overall project objective. This involves a numerical analysis of the probability and impact, that means amount at stake or consequence of the risk move forward to the process from qualitative risk analysis. Quantitative risk analysis also look at how risk affect the objectives of the project. The purpose of quantitative risk analysis is to determine which risk event warrant a response, determine overall project risk or a risk exposure, determine the quantified probability of meeting project objective. That means we only have 80% chances of completing the project within 6 months required by the customer, or we have only 75% chances of completing the project within this budget. So determine cost and schedule reserves, identify risk requiring the most attention, create a realistic and achievable cost schedule or a scope target. Here I like to highlight, most of the people get confused between the qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. Remember that qualitative risk analysis is a subjective evaluation. Even though numbers are used for the ratings, like we use 3, 1, A, B, C, like that. In the quantitative risk analysis is more objective or a numerical evaluation. The rating of each risk is based on the attempt to measure the actual probability or amount at stake or impact. Therefore, while the rating for the risk in qualitative risk analysis might be 5, it might be stated as a $4,000 added cost impact in the quantitative risk analysis. The output of the process of this is also project document updates. Here again there is a risk management plan, cost management plan, schedule management plan, risk register, enterprise environmental factor, organization process assets. These are our inputs, and here these are the techniques: data gathering and representative techniques, qualitative risk analysis and modeling techniques, and expert judgment. And our output is the project documents update. In this session, I am not discussing more about the what is the input and what is the tools. Just I am giving the brief idea what is that perform quantitative risk analysis. Yeah, most of the people ask why we do this PMP. And now I took this example, what is the importance of the PMP. But when we talk in a general life, it's very difficult to give the answer. Maybe it's a PMP is a good, is a enhancing the knowledge, and so on. And some people say there is no need of PMPs. But technically, I'm trying to prove, but this is based on some of the assumptions, like that is using. I'm using the simple decision tree models. I'm using the simple decision tree models. To understand this is a PMP. The cost of the PMP is I'm considering for when you go for the PMP, the exams fees is $555 approximately, and before that, there is a mandatory requirement of the training by some of the organizations, some of the institute, and that cost is approximately $500. So that figure is 1055. And some of the students I saw, they are not going for the exams, so their fees is just $500. That is, you are giving to institute to get the 35 mandatory hours for the appearing the PMP exams. So, and next is there is no need to go even this for 35 hours. I am very satisfied without the PMP. So these three category I have taken, and just I am explaining how we are using the simple decision tree model in our projects, and how we can use in the same fashion here. So my concern is, if you are doing the PMP, there is a you have to pay 1055, or if you are not appearing for the PMP exam that is conducted by the PMI, then you have to pay 500, or it depends location to location, it may be 500. So my assumption is $500. And if some people are saying I'm not, there is no use to go for PMP, so there is no need to spend any money, single money. Now if you go to the PMP, as per the internet data and some information, I am gathering some information, there is a chances in 3 years the increase of your salary. So I am considering this salary is increasing is around $500 per month. So it's approximately in 3 years it's 18,000. And there is again there is no increment, and there is always possibility of the probability. If you go for the exams, there is a 50% possibility you will clear the PMP, and again there is a possibility is you will not clear the PMP. So there is a possibility, but that is person to person. Maybe some person are more confident, they have a 0.9 probability, some people say 0.2, 0.4, but just for my assumption is a 50% when you go for the this. Because if you clear this PMP, the net profit is 16,945 because you deduct 1055. But if you are not clear the exam, then you have already spent 1055. So that is in negative profit, because if you are not clearing, there is no benefit of the increment of your salary, but you are losers. That is 1055. Now we are taking the another that who are not going for the PMP exam that is conducted by the PMI. They already spent 500. Maybe some of the organization they are giving some increment because they recommend for this preparing go for the PMP, and because you already spent 35 hours and you already enhance some of the knowledge, so they are giving $100 per month increment. But from my end, there is a probability is 0.1, and so if the probability is 0.1, So the net profit is 3100 because you already spent 500. And there is a possibility there is no increment and this probability is 0.9. So the net profit is minus 500. So based on this EMV, this monetary value, here we are discussing in the figures. So if you go, because it is a 50% here, 50% here, and based on this, if we calculate 16,945 multiplied by 0.5 and this 1055 multiplied by 0.5 because there is 50%. So our EMV is a 7945. That is a positive value. So based on that, there is a possible of our this is unmonetary value is 7945. And if you calculate based on the same here our EM value is minus 140. So that is in negative sides. And if we will not go for any PMP, even it's 35 hours or a PMP entrance exam, there is a 0. So based on that, if it's a positive, more positive, that means you can go. So there is always benefit within a 3 years. Even if 50%, there is a benefit of, means we are considering there is a monetary value is 7945, and here is we are calculated is minus 140, and here is we are calculated is 0. But if we go 100%, the net profit is this one. If we are not getting anything, that negative 1055. So there is a chances that 7945, that is a positive value. So again it is the same calculation why people are recommending for the PMP, because there is a the unmonetary value is a positive side, and the same we are using. I am explaining you based on the same simple decision tree model, and the same we are using in our projects and to calculate the unmonetary value. So this is decision tree are excellent tool for helping you to choose between several course of actions. They provide a highly effective structure within which you can lay out option and investigate the possible outcomes of choosing those options. They also help you to form a balanced picture of the risk and reward associated with each possible course of actions. Now we will go to the plan risk response. Plan risk response, the process of developing options and action to enhance opportunity and to reduce threats to the project objective. In risk response planning, you will find to reduce the threat or eliminate it entirely if it's possible, as well as find ways to make opportunity more likely to increase their impact. Response may include doing one or all of you do something to eliminate the threat before they happen, do something to make sure the opportunity happen, decrease the probability and or impact of threats, or increase the probability or impact of opportunities. So here you can see these are the inputs, these are our tools, and our outputs is a project management plan updates and project document updates that we have already discussed. Now the last process, that is the monitoring and control risk. The process of implementing risk response plan, tracking, identify risk, monitoring residual risk, identify new risk, and evaluating risk process effectiveness throughout the process. The process of implementing risk response plan, tracking, identify risk, monitoring residual risk, identify new risk and evaluate risk process effectiveness throughout the project. The purpose of the control risk process are to determine project assumptions are still valid, analysis show an assessment risk or can be retired, risk management policies and procedures are being followed, and contingency reserves of the cost or schedule should be modified in the alignment with the current risk assessments. Here again, these are the inputs, that is risk management plan, risk register, work performance data, work performance report. These are the tools and techniques, and our outputs are the work performance information, change request, project management updates, project document updates, and organization process assets updates. So here we already discussed about all 6 process, but because of the time constraints, it's difficult to discuss for each inputs, each tool and techniques, and each outputs. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any question or query, you can write to me.
So thank you, Mr. Gupta, for the interesting session. I hope everybody enjoyed the session, and your certificates shall be sent to you by tomorrow on your email ID, and hope to see you back on 5th of September. There will be a session on failure in construction due to ineffective project management information system by Mr. Hassan. So thanks everybody and good night.